These 8 zombie viruses would end civilization as we know it. From corporate bioweapons to solar radiation, each one brings its own nightmare to the table. Let's break down exactly how each virus works and why humanity never stood a chance. T-virus, Resident Evil. The T-virus is what happens when a pharmaceutical company decides to play God. Created by the Umbrella Corporation, this bioweapon rewrites your DNA from the inside out. The virus attacks your nervous system, shutting down higher brain functions while keeping the motor cortex active. What's left is a walking corpse with an insatiable hunger for human flesh. The development of the T-virus began decades before the Raccoon City incident. Umbrella researchers started with the progenitor virus, a naturally occurring pathogen discovered in West Africa. Through years of genetic manipulation and countless human test subjects, they created something far more dangerous. The virus works by attacking the brain's frontal cortex first, destroying personality, memory, and rational thought. Then it spreads through the central nervous system, reanimating dead tissue while leaving the victim in a state of perpetual decay. The T-virus is a genetic wildcard that can mutate any living tissue. Dogs become Cerberus hounds with exposed muscle and razor-sharp claws. Humans can transform into towering tyrants or writhing masses of flesh called lickers. Plants grow into massive Venus flytraps that can swallow a person whole. The virus essentially turns biology into a horror show, creating creatures that defy natural law. The virus spreads through multiple vectors: airborne particles, contaminated water, direct injection, even skin contact in high concentrations. It's designed to be the perfect weapon, and that's exactly what makes it so terrifying. The airborne strain can remain active for hours in the right conditions, while the water-soluble variant can contaminate entire city water supplies. Even a single drop of concentrated T-virus can kill an adult human within minutes. When a lab accident released it into Raccoon City's water supply, the entire population of 100,000 people was infected within days. The outbreak began in the underground hive facility, where a computer system called the Red Queen tried to contain the spread by sealing all exits and killing everyone inside. But the virus had already reached the surface. Emergency services were overwhelmed as hospitals filled with bite victims who died and came back hungry. The military's solution? Nuke the entire city. Even that didn't stop it from spreading globally through infected survivors and corporate cover-ups. Salanom, World War Z. Max Brooks created Solanum as the most realistic zombie virus ever conceived, and that realism makes it absolutely terrifying. The virus has one job. It completely destroys the higher brain functions while leaving the brainstem intact. The result is a walking corpse that feels no pain, no fear, no fatigue, and has only one instinct: feed. The virus gets its name from the nightshade family of plants, which contains deadly neurotoxins. Like its botanical namesake, Solanum attacks the nervous system with surgical precision. It begins by shutting down the cerebral cortex, eliminating consciousness, memory, and personality. Next, it targets the limbic system, removing all emotions except the most primal hunger. Finally, it preserves just enough brain function to maintain basic motor skills and an overwhelming drive to consume human flesh. Solanum spreads exclusively through bites, but here's the kicker. The incubation time depends entirely on where you're bitten. Get bit on the head? You've got minutes. Bite on the foot? You might have hours to say goodbye. The virus travels through your bloodstream to your brain, systematically shutting down everything that makes you human. During this time, victims remain conscious and aware, watching helplessly as their body temperature drops and their humanity slips away. The infected, called ZAC by survivors, possess several terrifying advantages. They can survive underwater indefinitely since they don't need to breathe. They can withstand extreme temperatures that would kill living humans. Their bodies don't produce lactic acid, so they never get tired. They can detect living humans from incredible distances through sound, smell, and possibly even body heat. A single zombie can track a person for days without rest. The Great Panic started with isolated incidents that authorities dismissed as riots or terrorism. Patient Zero was likely a young boy in a remote Chinese village, but by the time anyone realized what was happening, it was too late. Traditional military tactics failed completely because you can't intimidate or negotiate with something that doesn't fear death. Conventional weapons were useless against an enemy that could absorb bullets and keep coming. Millions died before humanity learned the hard truth: aim for the head and never fight them on their terms. The only reason humanity survived was because zombies freeze solid in winter, giving survivors precious months to regroup and develop new tactics. Rage virus, 28 days later. Here's what makes the rage virus truly horrifying. The infected aren't actually dead. They're still alive, still human, but consumed by a psychotic fury so intense it overrides every other instinct. The virus hijacks the brain's limbic system, flooding it with adrenaline and cortisol while shutting down rational thought. What's left is a sprinting, screaming nightmare that wants nothing more than to tear you apart. The virus was originally developed as a potential treatment for aggressive behavior in psychiatric patients. Researchers at Cambridge University were experimenting with ways to suppress violent impulses when they accidentally created the opposite effect. The virus binds to dopamine and serotonin receptors, completely disrupting the brain's chemical balance. Instead of reducing aggression, it amplifies it beyond human comprehension. The virus spreads through blood-to-blood contact and works terrifyingly fast. Get infected blood in your eyes, mouth, or an open wound, and you'll turn within 10 to 60 seconds. There's no incubation period, no time to say goodbye, just instant murderous rage. The transformation is physically violent, with victims vomiting blood as their internal organs begin to break down from the massive adrenaline surge. Infected individuals retain their physical abilities but lose all human reasoning. They can run at full speed, climb obstacles, and even use basic tools as weapons. Their pain receptors are completely suppressed, allowing them to continue fighting even with severe injuries. They bleed from their eyes and mouth constantly, making them walking biological hazards. The virus burns through their system so intensely that they die from dehydration and exhaustion within 28 days. The outbreak began when animal rights activists broke into a Cambridge research facility to free infected chimpanzees. One bite was all it took. Within 28 days, the entire United Kingdom was either infected or dead. The military's quarantine protocols failed spectacularly because they underestimated how fast the virus spread. Fighter jets couldn't carpet bomb fast enough to stop the infected from overrunning major cities. By the time they realized what they were dealing with, London was already burning. The infected eventually died from starvation, but not before destroying everything in their path. Wildfire Virus, The Walking Dead. The wildfire virus breaks every rule of zombie fiction because it's already won. This virus has already infected every person on Earth, lying dormant in everyone's bloodstream. There's no cure, no immunity, no escape. The virus activates the moment you die from any cause, reanimating your corpse within minutes or hours depending on the cause of death. The virus was likely created through decades of chemical warfare, nuclear testing, and environmental pollution. It may have started as a biological weapon that escaped containment, or it could be the result of humanity's collective assault on the planet's ecosystem. Whatever its origin, the virus has integrated itself into human DNA so completely that it's now part of our genetic code. This changes everything. A heart attack victim becomes a zombie. A car crash fatality gets back up. Even natural death from old age means you're coming back hungry. The virus activates brain stem functions while leaving the rest of the brain dead, creating creatures driven purely by instinct. The reanimation process varies. Some people turn within minutes, others take hours. The fresher the corpse, the faster it moves. The virus spreads through bites, but the bite itself isn't infectious. Those wounds kill you through blood loss and infection, and death triggers the virus. The bite is the delivery method for death, and death triggers the virus. This creates a terrifying cycle where every casualty becomes a new threat, making traditional rescue operations almost impossible. When humanity realized that everyone who dies comes back, civilization collapsed overnight. Hospitals became death traps as patients died and turned in their beds. Nursing homes turned into zombie factories where the elderly died naturally and immediately attacked their caregivers. The military couldn't contain something that was already everywhere. Emergency services were overwhelmed as every death scene became a potential outbreak site. Survivors had to adapt to a world where death itself was the enemy, where every goodbye might be permanent, and where the only way to truly die was to destroy the brain. Blacklight Virus, prototype. The Blacklight Virus consumes its victims completely. This viral weapon was designed to break down organic matter at the cellular level, but instead of simple death, it creates something far worse. The virus transforms victims into a collective biomass with shared intelligence and the ability to perfectly mimic human form. The virus began as a joint military corporate project between the U.S. Army and Genentech Corporation. They wanted to create the ultimate biological weapon, something that could infiltrate enemy populations and gather intelligence while eliminating threats. The original Blacklight project was shut down in 1969 after a containment breach at Hope, Idaho, killed the entire town. Decades later, Genentech scientists, led by Dr. Alexander Mercer, attempted to recreate the virus using modern genetic engineering techniques. Infected victims are absorbed into the viral collective, their memories and personalities becoming part of a growing hive mind. The virus can then use this information to create perfect human disguises, infiltrating survivor groups from within. It reads genetic memories, allowing infected creatures to perfectly replicate not just appearance, but also mannerisms, speech patterns, and personal knowledge. This makes the infected nearly impossible to detect until it's too late. The biomass can also form massive creatures, towering hunters that can leap between buildings, web-spinning hydras that can trap entire city blocks, and building-sized supremes that can level skyscrapers. The virus treats organic matter like raw material, reshaping it into whatever form serves its purpose. Infected tissue can become armor, weapons, or sensory organs depending on the situation. Alex Mercer, Patient Zero, released the virus in Penn Station during rush hour after discovering that Genentech planned to eliminate him. The infection spread through Manhattan like wildfire, consuming everything organic in its path. Within hours, Times Square was a writhing mass of infected flesh. The military quarantined the island, but the virus had already begun evolving. Each absorbed victim made the collective smarter, stronger, and more dangerous. By the end, the virus had created creatures that defied biological possibility, living weapons that could adapt to any threat and learn from every encounter. Flare Virus, the Maze Runner. The flare virus transforms gradually. This is a slow descent into madness that can take months or years. Solar flares bombarded Earth with radiation that mutated a common virus into something that slowly destroys the human mind. The virus attacks the brain's frontal cortex, gradually stripping away empathy, rational thought, and human behavior. The solar flares, called sun flares in the post-apocalyptic world, lasted for months and changed the planet's climate permanently. The radiation didn't just create the virus, it made vast areas of Earth uninhabitable. The combination of extreme heat, radiation, and viral infection created a perfect storm of apocalyptic conditions. Most of the world became known as the Scorch, a wasteland where temperatures regularly exceed 120 degrees Fahrenheit. The virus progression follows a predictable pattern. Stage 1 involves mood swings and mild aggression. Stage 2 brings paranoia and violent outbursts. Stage 3 sees the breakdown of language and social behavior. In the final stage, victims become cranks, savage predators that hunt in packs through the wasteland. Full cranks lose all traces of humanity, becoming creatures that can only be described as zombie-like cannibals. The worst part? The virus is airborne and affects almost everyone. Only a small percentage of the population is naturally immune, making them incredibly valuable to organizations like Wicked, who desperately search for a cure. These immune individuals, called munies, can carry the virus without experiencing symptoms. Their blood contains antibodies that could theoretically be used to develop a cure. Safe cities were built to protect the uninfected, massive domed structures that filter the air and maintain controlled environments. These cities became the last bastions of human civilization, but they required constant maintenance and resources. The government and organizations like Wicked conducted brutal experiments on immune subjects, believing that the cure justified any means necessary. Meanwhile, the Scorch became a hellscape where cranks roam freely, driven mad by heat, radiation, and viral infection. The virus essentially created a two-tier world, the lucky few who live in protected domes, and everyone else slowly losing their minds in the wasteland. Infected strain, wreck and quarantine. The virus from wreck is pure nightmare fuel condensed into a single apartment building. This rabies-like pathogen spreads through bites and transforms victims into hyper-aggressive predators within minutes, but unlike traditional zombies, these infected retain their physical abilities. They can run, climb, and even use basic tools to hunt their prey. The virus shares characteristics with rabies but progresses much faster and more violently. It attacks the central nervous system, causing massive inflammation in the brain while flooding the bloodstream with adrenaline. Victims experience hypersalivation, photophobia, and extreme aggression. The virus also seems to enhance physical strength and speed, possibly by removing the brain's natural limiters that prevent muscle damage. The virus hijacks the nervous system, flooding the brain with adrenaline while shutting down pain receptors. Infected victims become incredibly strong and fast, feeling no pain as they tear through doors, windows, and human flesh with equal enthusiasm. They're drawn to noise and movement, making them perfect predators in confined spaces. The infected can climb walls, leap between floors, and navigate in complete darkness using sound and smell. The virus may have supernatural origins, connected to ancient demonic possession rather than natural disease. Religious artifacts found in the apartment building suggest that the infection might be more than just biological. It could be a manifestation of evil itself taking physical form. This explains why the infected seem to exhibit intelligence and coordination beyond what a simple virus should produce. The Barcelona apartment outbreak started with a single infected girl brought to the building by firefighters responding to a disturbance call. The child had been locked in the apartment above for days, and when authorities finally broke down the door, they found her in an advanced state of infection. Within hours, the virus had spread through the entire structure via the building's ventilation system and direct contact. The military's response was swift and brutal. Seal the building with everyone inside. No evacuation, no rescue attempts, just a complete quarantine that trapped the healthy with the infected. The virus turned the apartment complex into a vertical tomb where every floor became a hunting ground. Haron, dying light. The Haron virus creates a nightmare that changes with the setting sun. During the day, infected victims shamble around as slow, mindless biters, dangerous but manageable. But when night falls, something horrifying happens. The virus activates dormant genetic sequences, transforming these shambling corpses into deadly volatiles. Fast, intelligent, and nearly impossible to kill. The virus was developed by the Global Relief Effort, or GRE, as a potential cure for cancer. The research focused on regenerative medicine, trying to create cells that could repair themselves indefinitely. Instead, they created something that could reanimate dead tissue while maintaining basic motor functions. The virus spreads through bite transmission and attacks the nervous system progressively. The day-night cycle affects the virus in ways that scientists still don't fully understand. During daylight hours, infected individuals remain relatively docile, moving slowly and showing limited coordination. They're attracted to sound and movement but can be easily avoided or dispatched. However, as darkness falls, the virus undergoes a dramatic transformation. Infected victims become volatiles. They are zombies with enhanced speed, strength, and intelligence. The virus spreads through bites and has no known cure, only a treatment called antizin that slows the progression. But antizin is in short supply, and without it, infection is a death sentence. The virus attacks the nervous system gradually, allowing victims to remain conscious and aware as they slowly lose their humanity. The transformation process is agonizing, with victims experiencing fever, hallucinations, and gradual loss of motor control. Antizin works by suppressing the virus's ability to replicate, but it doesn't eliminate the infection. Survivors need regular doses to prevent turning, making them dependent on airdrops from the outside world. The medication causes severe side effects including nausea, tremors, and psychological dependence. Many survivors become addicted to antizin, leading to violent conflicts over supply drops. Haron City became a living laboratory when the virus outbreak began. The military quarantined the entire city, trapping survivors inside with the infected. The official story was containment, but the reality was experimentation. The government used the quarantine to study the virus's progression and test potential treatments on the surviving population. During the day, survivors could scavenge for supplies and fight the slow-moving biters, but at night, the city belonged to the volatiles. The government maintained the quarantine through airdrops, keeping survivors alive just long enough to study the virus's progression and collect valuable research data. Which virus would you least want to face? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe.